Hi everyone, Luke here from Weekend Tour Pros. We're back again today with another video, and this one's just a little bit different and it comes at you in two parts. Now for those of you that watched my What's in the Bag video that I posted a couple of weeks ago, and if you haven't, I'll put a link to it up there, you may recall that I had a gap in my bag between my 5 hybrid and my 5 wood, and I let you know that I had a fitting booked to fill that gap. Now unfortunately I wasn't able to film the whole fitting, but what I'm going to do today in the first part of this video is take you behind the scenes and do an interview with Simon, the director and club fitter at Precision Golf, who did my fitting on the day, talking you through all the different things that we tested and how we ended up with the right club to fill that gap in my bag. Now this part of the video also includes some absolutely fantastic nuggets from Simon that will help all of you guys watching down the lens to understand if you should be gaming long irons, hybrids or fairway woods in that part of the bag, so I'm sure there'll be something for all of you to watch in the first half of this video. The second half of this video is me taking you on a tour of the Precision Golf facility with Simon, the director and club fitter. The reason I wanted to do that is this place is absolutely unbelievable. It's just an absolute golfing paradise, and professional golfers, elite amateurs and handicap golfers travel from all around the world to go and get fitted at this place. If you've ever seen any of the TXG content on YouTube, this place is effectively the TXG of the UK, and I just wanted to show you it because it's an absolute golfing heaven. Hopefully that's whet your appetite for the video you're going to see today. Without further ado, let's get down to Precision Golf and I'll meet you there in a few seconds. Hi guys, so just finished my fitting here at Precision Golf and I'm with Simon at the moment, who's just done my fitting for me today. So you'll know that as I was talking to you about on my What's in the Bag video last week, I had this gap between my 5 hybrid and my 5 wood, and it was kind of creating about an 18 to 20 yard gap for me, which was causing me a problem on those longer shots into par 3 greens or second shots into par 5 where you've maybe got a bunker, greenside bunker that you need to get over, and it just meant I was laying up or maybe coming up short with shots and maybe leaving shots out on the golf course. So really keen to fill that gap today. We've just finished the fitting with Simon and we've ended up with what I think Simon's a really good club to go in the bag. So do you want to tell the viewers what we've gone for?
Yeah, so we've gone for, well, because of your spin profile being fairly low, being more of a picker off the top, it doesn't generate as much backspin. So the key thing is getting height, but also you need to generate the spin. So we did a bit of testing with both hybrid and a fairway wood, and the hybrid just kept the spin down a little bit low. So to get that, not just launch angle height, but the backspin level, the 7 wood was the best one. So in terms of performance and the ideal scenarios that the visuals match as well, Ping G430 in the 7 wood.
And what's the shaft is it that we've gone with that as well, Simon?
Shaft's a Fujikura, it's a Motore F36. So in terms of deadweight, we went a little bit heavier to see if the shorter shaft suited a slightly heavier shaft, which a lot of the tour players do, but then 99% of us aren't tour players, so we normally find that a more of a matching shaft to your 5 wood in terms of weight. It's still slightly heavier, but it gives a little bit of feel in the tip end, and that straightened things up for you. It's a sort of mid-launch, designed around mid-launch and mid-spin, just retained a bit of flight, retained a bit of spin.
There was one thing you said to me that was really interesting, which I think the viewers will find interesting when we were doing the fitting, was we were talking about the difference between a hybrid head and a fairway wood head and the different profiles, because I was probably expecting to come in today and the answer be a 4 hybrid because of how much I love my 5 hybrid, but you were explaining about the shape of the head actually means it delivers certain characteristics. Would you mind explaining that? Because I think people find that really interesting.
Yeah, when you're, this particular gap, for you what we're looking at, we would always be looking at what shot type we're looking for. Is it a flatter shot? Is it just a put it in play club off the tee? Is it an approach shot club? And this is very much approach shot club. So if we're looking for high launch and spin, as you go from an iron to a hybrid to a fairway wood, the depth of the centre of gravity moves back from the face, but it gets a little bit lower. But what you then get is a higher spin ratio to loft with a wood than a hybrid, and a hybrid than an iron. So I've always spun it massively, so I have a 2 iron, driving iron. Whereas you're a lower spin profile, so the fairway wood versus the hybrid, we actually got about 1,000, certainly 600-700 revs, pushing 800-900 more spin. So we're not having to force launch angle up the whole time to get the spin level, which then means maintaining carry distance and ball speed, but using the spin to control it, which then doesn't rely on it being winter time and it plugging.
Do you think that's because, again, I'm someone that wants to play, I don't care what the club is as long as it does the job in my bag. But do you think, again, a lot of my viewers are average swing speed, mid-handicap golfers. Do you think with that 7-wood becoming a more popular club again and seeing him even appearing on tour a little bit, that more handicap golfers could maybe consider using that as a club as a fitting option?
Definitely. I mean, we've seen 9-woods. US Open, Dustin used a 9-wood. So the fact that the tour players are going there, and we're seeing more of a split of the hybrids are being played a bit less on tour. I think to maximise height and carry and stopping power, they're going to that more as they're playing bigger, longer courses. So it's not just the mid to lower speed player. But yeah, I think we are seeing more lofted woods as the spin proportion on balls and heads has dropped a bit. We're doing far more sets at 4 or 5 wood instead of a 3 wood as the first one back from driver to get enough light, and then a 6 or 7 wood essentially. So the lofts have shifted up a little bit to retain that launch and spin.
That makes perfect sense. What I'll do, guys, I'll get a couple of just zoomed in shots for you of the new club, and when it does come in, I'll do a full review on it and a full video on it, and I can show you all the things that Simon found in the club today in a little bit more detail. But what I want to do now is I want to just show you a little bit more around this facility, Precision Golf. So you've probably heard me talk a little bit about how much I love this place. So with Simon's help now, we're going to just go and do a little bit of a tour of the place, show you some zoomed in shots, and Simon's just going to tell us a little bit more about Precision Golf and the services that they offer. So Simon's joining me again just to tell us a little bit about Precision Golf, and like I say, we'll show you a little bit of a tour of the facility while we're talking through these answers. So Precision Golf, Simon, started in about 2004, about 20 years ago now.
Sounds better when you say the year on how many. But
yeah, apologies. But can you tell us about that journey and how we've ended up in this brilliant facility today and where it's all started from?
So I mean, I met James when I was trying to play full time. Played many Europro and a couple of Challenge Tour events, but where I then got some clubs done was where James was training. And then he wanted to do something a little bit more kind of broad ranging in terms of options, just when custom fitting was starting to be viewed as kind of consumer oriented. And he said, I can build, but I need someone to fit. How about it? And I was 24, you go, sounds like a good idea. Playing's not going so well. And so it started from that, but at that point there were so few options that we could use. So it was a great, for me, kind of learning. I kind of learned on the hoof. I've always liked to understand what's going into things. I feel I can get more out the other end if I understood whether it was fitness, nutrition, clubs, technique. So I've always liked the what and the why and the how. So this side actually really just suits the way I've always looked at golf and kind of everything. But at that point we were in a 1,250 square foot unit. James had to wait till I stopped talking to a client to cut a shaft because we were just in the one unit. And then a few years later we took over the next door one as we grew. Put the workshop through there, had a couple of fitting bays, and then in 2015 moved here where we had 3 bays and about 3,500 square foot. We then put the mezzanine in and the coaching bays upstairs, and then a couple of years, I mean, through COVID, golf took another. I mean, we've seen consistent growth through the years, but then through COVID, golf went nuts. Certainly the fitting bit of golf is the fastest growing bit of the industry, but it's still really niche. It's still very much a very small proportion of golf and equipment sales are fitted. So it would have been about 18 months ago we knew this side was coming free, and it was just too good an opportunity to miss, and now we've got about 13,000 square foot.
Brilliant. Hopefully from the shots that we're just showing you there as Simon's been talking, you can just see how much of an awesome facility this is, particularly this side where we've been filming in today. Really, really cool space. I think you've touched on some of the other services that you offer, Simon, and we'll touch on them again in a bit more detail in a minute, but the custom fitting experience you offer here, I'm a self-confessed golf geek. I think a lot of my audience are because they like all the numbers that I'm showing, and I think there's definitely a difference in the fitting that you can get from one extreme where maybe it's all distance focused in certain sort of retail shops to the experience that you're offering here, which I think is a tour level fitting experience, and for a geek like me, it's great. Can you just tell people what differentiates your fitting experience to maybe what they might have seen elsewhere?
I mean, there are a few things. I mean, one is you're getting. Mark's been fitting longer than I have, but I've got 20 years experience just fitting. Mark's almost sort of since the turn of time. We've got, I think, within the team we've got 150 odd years worth of experience, but in fitting and building and the kind of the custom side of it, and that's a key thing. It's a bit like I wouldn't purport to coach. I can give someone some loose keys on whether it's swing lines or delivery lines, but that's not what I do. So you're not getting someone doing it part-time. full-time role, and it's all we do all day, every day. And you pick up nuances, you pick up, you see things differently when you're doing it regularly. So there's that side. We've got so many tools at hand as well. So we're not restricted to a small amount of options or just to what each brand offers within their custom options. We can put any combination together and add to that the build shop. The fitting without a good build is worthless, because if the build, because of the level of detail, not having to send the spec off to a mass manufacturing to a brand to make in a mass environment, we can go into a level of detail that is way beyond what they can, because they're building to bigger tolerances because it's a mass build. Yeah. So whereas we've got two or three guys in the workshop building a few sets a day, not thousands of sets a day. Yeah. And so the combination of those, the options we've got where we're not having to compromise anything, we can really make the club suit the player, and that backup of experience is a massive key.
And that, I think you've touched on it there, but one of the things that's actually going to be my next question is, when you get fitted in certain places, what happens is the clubs then get sent off to the manufacturer with that spec, and then they build them, and they effectively come in built. You guys have your own workshop here where you're doing your own build, which, like you said, it gives you that options. But you also offer this service of like puring the shafts as well, which is something that people might have heard of, or they might have seen it on the telly when they're talking about tour shafts. Can you just tell us a little bit about what goes on in the build in the workshop and that puring as well that you do on the shafts?
Yeah, so I mean, the puring is something that we've done ever since day one. It's a licensed technology. So essentially, the best analogy for it is like balancing a car wheel. So we don't structurally change a shaft. Once the shaft's trimmed to length, and whether we're kind of tip trimming, tip to frequency and length, we then go through the puring process. And what it does is it structurally analyzes a shaft in its 360 orientation. So you load the shaft under a load cell, it measures the upward force, and then it rolls it. That gives you how much the consistency of that profile of shaft. And then you're then testing, you do a control test at low go up, in terms of it's testing the oscillation pattern of the shaft, because as it loads and twists and it recovers, it will recover back onto its most stable point, and you want that point target side. So what the puring process is doing is analysing the shaft and letting us find its optimal position to orient it into the club. So that stabilises the face, reduces spin dispersion, and ultimately means more consistent shot patterns. And as you said, there's a tour van that goes around the PGA Tour puring players' equipment, and there are a lot of top players who have their equipment pured, but because they're not paid to have it done, they can't advertise it. So it's the icing on the cake from the build point of view.
Brilliant. And there's one, some of you guys will be watching down the lens, maybe you've got a similar handicap to me, maybe a higher handicap than me, that will be going, that all sounds great, but why would I have a fitting here over a fitting anywhere else? Because maybe I'm not a good enough golfer, I'm a variable golfer. I can definitely see the value of that, because I've seen, just from having my clubs fitted here, and the What's in the Bag video explains that to you guys, I've already seen massive gains. And I think even as a higher handicap, there's more to gain, because actually there's so much 100%. Low-hanging fruit to be gained. So would you agree with that, Simon?
100%.
That don't let your handicap be a deterrent to
It's
a
the
fit?
biggest misconception with fitting, that it's not for the, as you say, the higher handicap, or it's only for the tour-style player. It's the complete opposite. The better the player, the better they can adapt to the club. And also, they tend to get closer to what they need, because they're confident enough to go, I didn't do that swing. That result is not that swing, so it must be the club. So whereas your average, twice a month player playing off whatever handicap it is, but it's been 12, 15, 28, one doesn't have the ability to adapt to the same, because they haven't done the practice, and actually, or not just because they haven't done the practice, but just it's hard to do unless you're playing really regularly and a very elite level golfer. But they're also going to blame themselves for what's happening shot wise, because they don't play enough, or they don't practice enough, or they're not good enough. But fundamentally, it's just physics of, does the club complement how you move? And that doesn't matter. There's no ability level that dictates that's relevant at a certain point. It's functionally, how does your body work, and do the clubs let you move naturally? And if you do that, you'll get more consistency. So there's far bigger gains, the higher handicap, than the low handicap. Low handicap, we're fine-tuning spin or launch, or a distance that they're trying to hit because of a certain hole in a certain golf course. For your average player, you're saying, right, functionally, are your clubs working for you? And most of the time, you've got a 3-iron in the bag, or in your instance, a 3-wood in the bag, where actually it's hurting you. So we can make that so much easier and make a much bigger difference for the high handicapper.
One thing I've seen, if you see those dispersion circles when you have fittings, or you get yourself on a TrackMan or doing a gapping session, my dispersion circles, front to back, left to right, are getting tighter from my fitting experience with you guys. Yeah. And then I guess there's much more, my tightness of my dispersion to start with is obviously a lot worse than a lower handicap or a tour player. So there's so much more gain to be had. The other thing I think that I've seen from having a fitting here, guys, is actually it's not just about selling you golf clubs, because of the fact that Simon's already spoke about. It's, there's not targets on trying to sell clubs. And one of the things we've actually had is I've got 2 of my clubs where Simon and the team have said to me, there's nothing wrong with that. We just need to maybe add a little bit of lead to that to change the weight for you a fraction. And actually that's right for you. And I think that's something that gives me the confidence to keep coming back and to recommend Precision Golf is they're not trying to sell to you. They are trying to give you the best clubs to help you get the most out of your golf game. And I think hopefully you've seen that over this interview, but also for what we've been able to show you and the experience that I've had here as well, guys. Just the final thing I want to touch on, Simon, is fitting isn't everything you do, and you did touch on, as you've expanded, how that's the services has increased. Can you just tell other people what else you're offering here as well at Precision?
Yeah, so I mean, it started off with just fitting and just long game fitting, and so what we've added in is the putter studio, and with the Quintex software. When one of the coaches who works out of he's Sam, when he does putting coaching, but yeah, we've added in coaching. We've got the gym that James's wife's our PT. She's a TPI certified. And she's also a High Rocks world champion as well. So did I see she's also a world record holder in a team event? It's been usurped, but she has been a world record holder as well.
That's still a cool thing to say.
Yeah, she's you don't argue with Kate. No. She's very impressive. We've got Stuart and Lewis, who are sort of lead coaches, Mike who does the putter coaching, Kate who's in the gym, and then another Stuart who does our biomechanics. He's a practicing chiropractor, but he looks at whether it's therapeutic and biomechanics based, so functional movements based. So we're trying to cover off every aspect of, we just want to find the right thing to help you play better golf. Now it might be that you come in for a fitting and the last thing you end up doing is clubs. Yeah. If you've got a back injury or functionally you've got the lack of mobility, well, there's someone we can send you to improve that, and then come back in potentially and then look at the clubs. So we're trying to get as holistic an approach as possible.
I think we'll wrap it up there for Simon, if that's okay now. We're going to go on a little bit tour and film the other bit of footage that I'm going to be played to the guys over the top now, if that's okay with you, just before we wrap up. So, how cool was that? I really, really hope that over the last 10 or 15 minutes I've been able to convey just how amazing Precision Golf is and how incredible their facility is. Every single time I step foot into the building, I feel like I've gone into a golf heaven, and it just makes me fall even more in love with the game of golf. The team there are absolutely fantastic, and hopefully that came across from the time that we spent with Simon just then. I do need to say a massive thank you to Simon. He really was accommodating with his time on the day, and I do appreciate all the rest of the Precision Golf team who made time and accommodated us when we were filming in different parts of their facility. Thank you so much. I really, really do appreciate it. Now, if after watching this video you've been inspired to learn a little bit more about Precision Golf, or you want to watch their content, then I've put the links to all of their social medias and their YouTube channel down in the description below. Please do check them out. They absolutely are fantastic. And if you do decide to book a fitting in with Precision Golf off the back of watching this video, then please do let them know that Luke at Weekend Tour Pro sent you, and I promise you they'll give you an even more warm welcome than they do to all of their clients already. Now, like I said at the start, this is something very, very different for me at the channel. I am keen to diversify and film some slightly different content for you guys, so I'd really appreciate your feedback on this type of video. If you've liked it, please do smash that thumbs up button and let me know what type of content, including this type, that you'd like to see in the comments below. I really do appreciate every view and every comment that I get on the channel. I make sure I reply to all of your comments because I do appreciate all of your support in growing my audience over the last year or so. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day. Goodbye.